Good afternoon. Welcome to the Impact series. I'm Leslie Lanning, and I am coming to you on behalf of the Muskogee County Democrats. Today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about being prepared when you approach to talk about Project 2025 and our stance as far as what the Republicans want to do versus what we're fighting for. And the number one prep for it. That number one prep is educate yourself and have your sources. This is a copy of it's a pocket copy of the Constitution. It includes the Bill of Rights and the preamble and important sources. This I keep on me everywhere I go, and if I get into a conversation, I can always pull it out and say that's going to affect this amendment or that amendment. A good support source is this: the Bill of Rights Primer, a Citizen's Guidebook to the American Bill of Rights by Akil, Reed Amar, and Les Adams. Basically, this is this, but with other commentary and source material, so that we can better understand not only the subject matter of the Constitution, but also the ideology behind it. It also gives sources, including the Federalist Papers, which leads me to the third source, the Federalist Papers. And as you can see, written by Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison. This is a compilation of the actual Federalist Papers. For those of you that don't know what the Federalist Papers are, they were letters and published documents written by the founders to support their support of the proposed Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Basically, it goes through their intention and what the language of the Constitution was intended to do. For the most part, all of them were to protect the rights of the people over the elected officials, so that we were governed by the people, for the people. That being said, that is your justification for separation of powers. The first few amendments established the separation of powers. The First Amendment, of course, reads as specifically, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to give petition, and to petition the government for redress of grievances. This First Amendment establishes the press as one of the enforcers of separation of powers and is the first of the checks and balances. The checks and balances are to keep any one man or woman or one group enforcing their ideals on the people. Because if that happens, we're no longer governed by the people, for the people. The Project 2025 writers would have you believe that they intended, they being the founders, on a certain class of people to be dictating how we interpret our rights. but the First Amendment and the Federalist Papers support that that is not the case. The language of the amendments does describe the separation of church, separation of powers specifically, and the Federalist Papers support that separation. Each amendment is written to protect the people. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state and the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That is the exact language of the Second Amendment. Most Republicans you ask what the Second Amendment says will tell you that it's the right to bear arms, and that's it. But that is a cherry-picked version. The Bill of Rights handbook will explain to you that the well-regulated militia is an important piece of that amendment. It explains what they mean by that and what they mean by the security of a free state, and it references the Federalist Papers in that support. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. The Second and Third Amendments protect the people from the government. They protect us from the government overriding our freedoms. So the Second Amendment is not intended to overthrow our current government. That is a violation. That is insurrection and treason. As you go through each of the amendments, they do enhance the Bill of Rights and streamline their intention. One thing I do want to point out that is in the Constitution, Article 1, well, the Constitution in general, each section reinforces that the Congress has the ability to enforce. The amendments also have reinforcement in some of them. For instance, in the 13th Amendment, this was the amendment that freed the slaves. Section 1 says, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime whereof a party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Section 2 states, Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. In the 14th Amendment, Section 5 also states the Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. Amendment 15, also Section 2, the Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. That being said, I wanted to point out that reversing Roe v. Wade and many of the other things that Republicans are doing to remove or reverse amendments to the Constitution and the freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution the 14th Amendment states that Congress has the right to enforce. So if a case comes before the Supreme Court and the case cites the 14th Amendment as support for having the rights that the Republicans are trying to take away, Section 5 clearly states that that's the intention of that article, or of that amendment, excuse me. So if you are taking your case to the court and you're supporting it with the 14th Amendment, they have the right, the Congress has the right to have made that law. The Supreme Court should not be overturning it, because it does not say the Supreme Court has the right. It says the Congress has the right. So if Congress made the law, the Supreme Court is to interpret that law, not reverse it. So that's a violation by the Supreme Court. That also means that it's also a violation of, I believe it was the 9th Amendment. Yes, that is also a reversal of the 9th Amendment, which states, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So they cannot use the 14th Amendment and say, no, that's an error, we're reversing it. They can't do that, because, and they can't use the First Amendment to reverse 14th Amendment laws, because the right to freedom of religion is not to be used to overturn the right to bodily autonomy for women, because that overrides the rights of the people. So the Republicans, through Project 2025 and their actions ever since Trump's presidency, have violated the 9th Amendment left and right. We have to know our rights, and we have to learn how to interpret them, how to understand them, in order to stop them being trampled. To do that, you need your sources. You need to stay awake. You need to research. You need to understand. Again, you can also find Project 2025 online. Make sure and choose the conservative version, because you want to address the version they wrote themselves and compare it to these sources. And you'll start to see what I'm trying to tell you. They are dismantling the Constitution. It is up to us to protect it. Thank you. Next week we'll have another edition, and tomorrow I will be sending some invitations to various people to attend tomorrow about 6 p.m. to learn how to use social media, to use your voice to speak out about this election and how important it is and what's at stake, because our whole government foundation is at stake. Our constitutional republic is at stake, and it's up to us to protect it. Thank you.